Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Safari Mack Explores North America. I'm Safari Mack, your guide and host, helping you make connections to the wild. Wow, ladies and gentlemen, here we are, less than 2 weeks of saying goodbye to 2024 and getting into 2025. And let's be ready for whatever comes next our way. So, as always, though, if we're ready, let's get back to the Seaward Peninsula in Alaska and hang out with the caribou, otherwise known by the Latin name Ragnifer tarandus. So, today we're going to take a look. We're just going to hang out with the herds and just continue on with our journey. And before the end of today's episode, be sure to join me for a little announcement of next week's episode. But as always, if you're new to my channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Check out my Facebook page for content on conservation. And if you have a question about animals, or if there's an animal that you want me to do in the future, just send me an email, which you will find the link to down in my description below. But if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's get back to it with the wild things. For starters, now most species of deer are pretty identifiable with exactly how they are between the sexes, right? It seems that males always have the antlers and the females don't. Not necessarily for caribou. In fact, Ragnifer is considered to be the kind or genus that is of deer that in where both males and females have antlers. But how do you tell the difference? Easy enough. The males' antlers are always much, much more taller. Females are not as showy, not as flashy. And you know what? They probably have the better end of the deal because we males tend to look like we're the baddest things on earth. I know. Next, as I mentioned to you before last week, now they have fur on their nose, which helps them to, in a way, warm up the air before they breathe it, so it's not so hard on their lungs. But because they are actually not that great with their sight or with their sense of hearing, smell is basically their way to get around in the Arctic. Now, when they are walking, they have a kind of click, which really it's the tendon in their foot that's passing over the bones. Here's another pretty wild thing that I didn't even know about until recently. During the seasons, caribou or reindeer eyes actually change color. So it's actually due to the dilation of blood vessels in the nose, which helps them to increase the blood flow and in turn heat production. Now, you may have already heard that we probably know the legend of Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, and it probably seems like, oh, that's just silly, right? Now, in a way, it could be that this reindeer's pinkish nose may have somewhat started the inspiration for the legend of Rudolph. But here's the truth. So the pinkish on their nose actually is also helping with blood flow. So in extremely cold temperatures, that's when their nose begins to take on a little bit more of a pinkish hue color. Finally, these hooves are perfect for their environment. Being built for the cold, their hooves are even covered with a bit of hair. So this also allows them the wideness of their hooves allows them to act like a built-in snowshoe, making them effective in walking across the snow. Now, unfortunately, like all animals living in the Arctic, they have many different problems and challenges. Never mind the Arctic wolves and other predators that may prey upon them or the calves. Never mind that. I'm talking about the problems with us humans. Unfortunately, it seems that the caribou or reindeer's populations are actually dramatically declining, and it's actually at a not super great rate. In fact, two species, the Queen Charlotte Island caribou and the East Greenland caribou, are both said to have sadly become extinct, and due to hunting as well as loss of habitat, and basically because of us. Unfortunately, for those that are left remaining, climate change is the bigger problem, and here's why. So never mind about right now, forget about like the Arctic warming up. In a way, the ice is actually getting a little bit more and more thicker over their food supply, the lichen and grass, right? And so during the harder winters, if they can't get to it, they starve. And another major problem is their migration patterns could be affected by human activity, and as a result, the climate change is dramatically move interrupting their ancient rhythms in ways of life, because they have to really go where they can maximize as much food as possible. So here you can see, here's the Seaward Peninsula. Here's where they would go, and then they get up here during the summer months, and then back down to the winter. If their food supply is dramatically reduced, or nutrition isn't that good, and also other problems such as pests and disease like the mosquitoes, if they can't get away, if they can't keep up with their original customs, they will lose out. And it will be not in a good position. Now, of course, as I've always said in all my videos so far this year, and since my series began, I cannot stress to you how critically important it is to save these animals. Now, of course, it's not always possible to do something, but let's talk about how we can protect the caribou. So the caribou's migration pattern has to continue on, because their way of life affects the rest of the environment and all the other animals. Their waste, of course, as we know, like when they go to the bathroom, it returns nutrients to the soil. They're a food source for many different predators, and just their activity shapes the environment around them. So what is being done? Right now, the Defenders of Wildlife is actively working to protect caribou habitat from development, and is advocating for the U.S. government to take action in reducing the nation's carbon footprint, which I'm sure you probably know what it is. And if not, basically how we're emitting so much carbon, we need to reduce as much as possible. In fact, if you want to learn how you can reduce your carbon footprint at home, check out the link which I will leave you down in my video today on a carbon footprint calculator, so that you know exactly how you can reduce and what may be the ultimate cause in your own home, because it is a pretty cool and useful tool. Of course, other major important deals is that we have to really continue to push the government to keep these animals protected. Consider them being put on the endangered species list, as many different species as possible, because remember, it's not just them. I didn't name all the subspecies of caribou because we would be here all night. So no, I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew at least the two of Alaska. But if we can have them given protections like that of endangered species, then they will have a chance to survive, because right now the Arctic is warming at a much more rapid pace than we originally thought. Scientists actually do predict, sadly, that if we do not take action and do as much as we can now, the Arctic could literally become ice-free by 2040 or 2050. And so really, that's less than 25 years from now. So we need to do our part now if these animals are going to survive and continue to hold over the imagination of our spirit, of the human culture and imagination, especially around this time with the holiday season. And so therefore, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to say thank you again for joining me on part 2 of Caribou today, and each and every one of you have a wonderful holiday. And so from Safari Mack, to all of you, my subscribers, thank you, happy holidays, and until next week for a little special recap of all that we did this year, I'll see you all out there.